Woo! Yeehaw! Okay, I think we're going. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Houston. We have a problem, and it's Monday. It's got some daylight outside, and we're rocking and rolling, right, folks? Okay, so the rumor mill on one of the space calls. Somebody had talked to an AST rep. The AST rep said, we got 200 million shares sent to us, which seems kind of weird. Like there's not that many paper shares to send. So I don't know how they'd send 200 million of them. But they're full-ish, I guess. I don't know. I guess we're waiting for confirmation on that. John Berta said that he was going to talk to NextBridge and see if that's accurate. So we'll find out. Also, last Friday we talked about how Fidelity listed everyone's tax basis as December 29th with a cost of $299. And that's not accurate at all. So everybody yelled at Fidelity. Fidelity said, no, it's totally accurate. Like that's just the way, it's the way it is. What happens? It's the price they gave us, and it isn't. So they changed it to $0, but kept it as short-term taxes for everyone still, despite the fact that nobody purchased anything on December 29th. But now it seems like it's like a giant loss. So we get a tax break. I'm not really sure what Fidelity's trying to accomplish here, because none of it is right. You purchased your security when you purchased it. Doesn't matter if it changed names or status or whatever. It's when you purchased it. So make it those dates. I don't get it. Well, all of a sudden it's short term, and I don't know. It's just dumb, man. It's just dumb. Okay. I already see a pretty shirt there. It is a good shirt. I should have ironed it. It's a touch wrinkly, but what's great is I got a hot wahine on the back. Check her out, right, monkey? Yeah. Exciting, huh? It's got a hot wahine on the back. Hot wahine. Okay. What my chair caught on? Oh, crap. Monkey butt pulled out of the garbage. You don't do that, dude. Okay. Bam. Wait, didn't go. Bam. Dog. The scratchy little dog gets all the scratches. Okay. Derek Edelman, not much movement on MMTLP today. Low volume. Yeah, that's been trading. It's absolutely just the lowest volume in the entire world. Jason Blackwell, Houston, why was the early universe so expensive? I mean, expansive? Rapid inflation? There's lots of theories about it. The best explanation we have is that essentially the explosion was so violent that it warped space-time. Okay, so you guys, let's talk astrophysics. All right, so everything came into being whoomp, in one big boom. That's the prevailing theory of the Big Bang. Because when we look out, everything's expanding away from each other. And we can kind of look back in time and see sort of the early moments of the universe and how stuff started to form. And it looked like it went whomp. Well, I want you to imagine everything that's in the universe, all 250 billion visible galaxies. Every single one of those galaxies has between 100 billion and 400 billion stars. All that matter exploding from one point in space in a whomp. Well, there's more than what you see. Because what you see is maybe, I don't know, just a small little cone of what's actually in the universe. And if you put together an infinite number of cones, you have yourself an even bigger universe. So there could be trillions, hundreds of trillions of galaxies that we just can't see because they're so far away that they're expanding faster than the speed of light. And as we talked about in the past, when you get high energy things happening, you get antimatter and matter. and a lot of it combines and disappears and leaves behind its gamma ray photon. So they think, and this is like super gnarly numbers wise, that like 99% of the universe was antimatter matter and like collided with itself and left behind just an immense amount of radiation. And that immense amount of radiation just sped so fast it pushed the universe outwards by warping space-time continuum. I know it's a lot of hand-wavy explanations, but the heat and energy expended was so great that like the fabric of space-time didn't know how to contain it, and the inflation was insane. And we're talking, you know, fractions of a second. I wrote an article about this years ago. Well, I never finished it. It was a 3-part series. I still haven't finished part 3. And one sec. Gotta go to it's a Notosphere spheregeologic.com/blog. Oh man, it's been like 10 years ago. I still haven't finished this. I have like a partially written third piece that would finish it all. And okay. Gotta get to the this has been 13, maybe February 2013. Yeah, maybe February. That's about when I think my mom got her hip replaced. Yes! Meteorites, Part 1, Big Bang Supernova. That's what it is. Oh, where are you, Chrome? Come on, Chrome. All right. So I'll post this sucker into ye old chat. So this is part 1 of a 3-part series I was working on. Again, I haven't finished the 3rd part 1. It's 10 years later. But in it, I sort of explain like the basics of the Big Bang, and like the integral parts of matter, and like the beginning of the universe was only 10 to the minus 37 seconds old. Like literally a unit of time that you and I cannot actually fathom, measure, experience. That was the matter-antimatter war, and so much of the universe blinked in existence and immediately blinked out of existence in that moment as well. So the explosion was just the weirdest thing in the entire world. Okay. And we go through sort of... Oh, man. Okay. So it's so hot that matter can't exist. The explosion was so hot, matter itself can't exist. It's proto-matter. It's so hot quarks can't even exist. So it's whatever might make up quarks. I don't know what makes up quarks in the end. Just bits of shit. And as it expanded greatly, it cooled off pretty quickly as well, because matter got further and further away from each other. Therefore, it wasn't this like giant pressure cooker. And over the course of about 400,000 years, it's how long it took before like electrons to actually get bound to the nucleus of atoms. So atoms as we know it could not exist for the first 400,000 years of the universe. It was too hot. And it would just ionize any atom in existence. So you can just imagine if it's so hot that matter can't exist, that the universe is going to have a hard time coping with all of that. I don't want to have to go through this whole thing. It took me long enough to write. So someone asked me like where meteorites come from, and I had to go, let's go back to the beginning of time. And so that was part 1. When did I do part 2? It must have been like a year or 2 later. I don't have a link to it in here, do I? I don't remember when it was. Let's just click astrophysics and see if that brings up more than one article here. Or gem series. No. Asteroids? I must not put any links on the other one. Dang it. Anyway, there's another one in here that goes to part 2 about how like star systems and galaxies form. And then what I didn't do is like the actual meteorites falling into Earth. But all matter comes from somewhere. And I don't know if I can read it yourself. I don't. I'm not gonna oh shit. I did it again. Monkey. Quit being so adorable. And I will remember to turn off the stupid thing. I think like, I got 10 seconds. I can scratch the dog's butt. That's plenty of time. Right? That's right. That's right, monkey. That's right, you little dog. Okay. All right, anyway. I'm going to walk off that unforced error. Okay. Chris R. things getting spicy at AST. Yeah, man. It seems very, very strange indeed. I mean, if AST is full, and, you know, they're saying it was full back when this whole brouhaha started, and it wasn't. Only had like 5 million shares in there. And I haven't seen enough people yet exclaim like, my transfer went through. All I've had is a couple of people said my transfer went through, and I've seen hundreds of people that are like, my transfer is not going through. So I personally don't think it's full. I think that the person at AST either misstated something or is misinterpreted or something, because I just haven't seen evidence of it. Danjo, the Banjo, when Ape and AMC merge, won't AMC just drop to the Ape price versus Ape coming to the AMC price, and just see them shorting the hell out of it after a reverse split so we can get corn holding harder? The AMC folks, the board has said no, Ape will become the price of AMC. So it's going the up way. So if you're buying at $1.85 or whatever it is right now, and 10 of those suckers you bought for under $20 and be worth over $60 at the current price, then you're going to get a hell of a deal. So that's the way I see it. Chris R. Won't drop with that, but we'll drop before reverse split. Possibly. Kirk Wilson, Houston, please explain how it's calculated when a company lose or gain dollars per share during earnings report. Okay. Should I do? Yes, I'm going to go like that. I'm going to go like, nope. It's time for Houston to do crappy drawings thing. And I got to go to there, and I've got to go to paint. Paint is on. Turn Google. There we go. All right. So, okay. I got to click on you. Click on you. That's a brush. Make the brush back big so we can see it. Okay, so earnings per share is basically you take the earnings. Let's say it's, I don't know, 200 million. Oh boy, I'm really good at it. Jersey keeps telling me I need to get a drawing pad, and he's right. So let's say it's 200 million bucks, and that's the quarter, and there is 100 million shares. Well, earnings per share, you just literally divide that sucker, and you get $2 per share. So, one of the things that stock buybacks do to kind of cheat the system is they change the number of shares. So, previous quarter 3, Apple's earning reports. Apple's revenue, way down. Apple's sales, way down. Apple's earnings per share, spot on. Why? Because they did like $100 billion in stock buybacks. So if your revenue is like it was plummeting, you spend a bunch of money that you shouldn't on stock buybacks, and then your earnings per share doesn't change. So let's say this company here that did $200 million this one quarter, they do $100 million, right? So they all of a sudden, oh no, we only did $100 million this quarter, but they bought back, oops, there we go. Put my commas in the wrong spot. They bought back 50 million shares, right? And so there's only 50 million shares. Which am I going to draw all the zeros? Million. And that equals a $2 per share. I did two backwards. How did I do that? Crud. All right. Back. There we go. That's how I do it. $2 per share once again. Oh, you guys can't even see what I'm doing. There we go. $2 per shore. Doing this with the mouse sucks. I do need one of those little things. But anyway, so that's one way stock buybacks can like make the earnings per share totally seem like nothing's happened, nothing's changed, and keep the stock price at its current value, even though the company overall might be failing miserably. If you're losing half your revenue all of a sudden, half your earnings, then you're not doing very well as a company. And if you had to spend a whole bunch of money on a stock buyback, then the dividends aren't there for everyone. Which is one reason why I think, stock, like, you get rid of naked shorting, you eliminate the need for stock buybacks largely, and so you can make stock buybacks kind of punishable, so that companies can't manipulate their stock price this way and sort of obfuscate like the poor things that are happening, or the fact they aren't investing into R&D or new technology or new products or whatever, and instead are just doing stock buybacks to like, oh, our company's failing miserably, but the earnings per share are the same, therefore we're still good. It's really just kind of, it's a sweeping under the rug. It's, what was that movie Big Daddy with Adam Sandler, where like whenever the kids like puked or pissed or something, he would just like lay down a sheet of newspaper on top of it and like be done with it. That's kind of the stock bro version of this. This is them laying down a newspaper rather than actually fixing whatever problems are inherent in their company. Okay. Lost ways more to watch Pick of Destiny. I have not watched Pick of Destiny yet. I have not. Although apparently Meow Meow sent me a couple of classic horror movies, like The Green Blob and whatever else. Okay. Leo B. Houston, my wife feeds our cat Doug at 6 p.m. precisely every evening. Not 5:30, not 5:50, at 6. Says this is so Doug doesn't ask for food any earlier. Any merit to this? Or are we just pissing the cat off? I mean, cats have incredible internal clocks. That's for sure. They know that Monkey Butt's got an incredible internal clock. Her feeding habit, like when it was just her around, I just kept the bowl full all the time and she'd eat when she was hungry. And then since we've moved and had roommates with dogs and stuff, and I had to take care of Snoopy, I had to make sure she like ate, and the other dog, who might not have her same, like, I don't know, self-discipline, wouldn't eat her food. So I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna feed you guys at the same time. So Monkey started getting on a feeding schedule. And so she gets fed once when we like get out of bed. I dump a bunch of food in her bowl. I send her outside, dump some food in her bowl, and she comes in, and if she wants to eat, she eats. Sometimes she doesn't feel like eating, so she doesn't eat. And then she gets a second bowl actually at midnight. That's a weird schedule, but like she snacks all day long. She gets treats all day long. We go for walks into town. People give her cookies. If I'm eating dinner, I might have a little chunk of pork chop or something. She gets some of that. So she snacks all day long, but then her last formal meal is around midnight before we head off to like go sit in bed and stare off into space. And she knows, like sometimes it's like 12:15. She starts pawing me. She's like, "You son of a bitch. It's time to send me outside and give me that bowl of food." And I'm like, okay, let's go do that. So she's got a clock in her too. But it's around midnight she gets that second bowl. And cats know. My fat cat is on steroids, and he has to get microdosed the steroids. So he gets a bowl that just sits there open all day long, because grind up the steroids like a drug dealer and sprinkle it over his food, and then he eats throughout the day or week and collects the steroids that way. And that way he doesn't die from his asthma, because he's a nerd. He's a little nerd. Okay. Also Brian. Hey, H-Dub, happy birthday. My 38th was last week, so we're basically twins. You young child, you. In April, a group of us were racing motorcycles from Texas to Zihuatanejo, Mexico. Any must-see areas, interests that you can suggest? I have no idea where Zihuatanejo is, but we can look. Where's my Google Earth? Sorry, I somehow closed Google Earth and launch repair tool. What? Yeah, let's just open you. There we go. Scene. Google Earth. All right. Z I H A O H U A Tenejo. Guero, Mexico. Whoa, that's way down there. Goodness gracious. Looks like I got some nice beaches there. That's a great looking beach. Look at that thing. Woo, Playa La Lopa. Well, I've never been here. I've never been pretty much further south than like Rosarita. So I've only ever been to Baja. I've been to like there, like Tijuana to about there. I have never gotten to explore any of this. I would love to go through the Sonoran Desert and go metal detecting. I think that would be awesome. But man, I know nothing. I know nothing at all. These are cool mountain ranges. I would love to explore them. I just have not been able to. So I know nothing, man. You're asking the wrong dude. I never had a chance to go through here. I know there's tons of silver, cool canyons, cool mountain ranges, and cartels. But that's all I know. I would love this. Looks like a really cool town. Zihuatanejo. Looks Mediterranean to me. Like lush though. Lots of forest and jungle. Great beach. These houses are awesome. Like, whew, these are probably owned by some of the scariest people you ever met in your life. I wonder what surfing's like. This is a strange harbor, so you can only get basically from what, just southwest swells, and it's all rocks around here. Oh, that's a good beach though. Kailami. That's a really big beach. That one's much better. That's probably got all sorts of breaks. And here too. Tons of breaks coming through there. Huh. Well. Also, Brian, I'm of no use to you whatsoever. This is all new to me as well. Absolutely never been here. Didn't even know this town existed. Looks gorgeous, though. Just from space, it looks gorgeous. So I'll have a good time. Yeah. Last Waves, did you watch Russell Brand's interviews? Why would I watch Russell Brand's interviews? He's of no significance to me whatsoever. He kind of like is the horseshoe theory guy who, you know, his hippie stuff kind of bled into like libertarian alt-right things, and now he seems to be on that side. And I don't know, he doesn't really interest me in any way. Oh, crap. There's a reset, and I just lost. Someone was replying to Also Brian here. Bill Coy and Also Brian, our two dogs, are fed exact same times every night by my significant other. They still beg treats all times. Yeah, it happens. Citizen 54, Debit Swiss, lost its biggest, most loyal investor. Swiss National Bank posts an annual loss of $132.5 billion. How is any of this sustainable? Shouldn't we be imploding by now? Dude, we should have imploded 2 years ago. What they should have done is they should have just let GameStop run to $1,000, right? It would have knocked down every single hedge fund, wiped out a couple of banks, would have been done. They would have been able to point the finger at, oh, look at all this naked short selling and these retail investors. It's their fault. And then they could have rebuilt from there. But instead, they postponed the inevitable and have thus made everything so much worse. I mean, since that period of time, the Federal Reserve has bought close to $9 trillion in securities, right, to try and boost the market. They could have saved that $9 trillion and just let the market just shit the bed. Blamed retail and hedge funds and then started over. But no, they had to try and protect everything. And by trying to protect everything, they've made it so much worse. Switzerland does not have the economy or the population to support losses like that. They don't. And a lot of the people who have their money in those banks are some of the scariest, worst people in the entire world. So I want to know what Switzerland can do to bail themselves out. There's only, 5 million Swiss residents? So how many people? Let me look this up. How many people live in Switzerland? Oh, 8 million, 8.7 million. Okay. So if we could bring out the calculator. Boink. Gotta get the calculator. Calculator. Bam. There it is. Okay, so we gotta turn off the paint, don't we? Boom. Okay, so we got the calculator. So 132 billion was the loss. Divide that sucker by the 8.7 million Swiss residents. Oops. So that's $15,000 per Swiss person this year that the central bank alone lost. So what's the average income in Switzerland? Like $60,000, $70,000. About a fifth of every Swiss person's income is devoted to the losses of the Swiss central bank. Per capita GDP Switzerland. Oh, 91,000. Okay, so this is a little bit better. It's higher than the rest of the world. So that's per capita GDP. That's not necessarily salary. Let's do per capita salary. Per capita salary is 54,000? 59,000. So about one quarter. So $60,000. About one quarter of every Swiss person's salary is devoted to the losses of their Swiss national bank. That's not particularly sustainable, especially on like a per year basis. Like the United States has a huge population, got 330 million people or whatever. And our central banks can't lose money because we can just print. Because everyone wants US dollars. So we can just make all those US dollars and things go great. Interesting though. That's bad. And what did Credit Suisse do today? I was looking at the pre-market. I didn't actually look at their to do CS. Credit Suisse. Okay, that did not bring up anything. Credit Suisse. There we go. $3. It dropped down to $2.97. That's weird. So doink. Like they had when the sales were happening, which was Friday. So this is when Blackstone dumped, right? From $3 down to $2.73. Took the whole rest of the day and then bounced right back up again. And so that's Thursday. Thursday they dumped everything. And then they announced today, like, hey, we got rid of it all. And the stock is like, cool. Your largest investor just dumped everything. Flash crashed the stock price in one day, and you bounce right back as if everything's normal again. That's weird. That's not how it should work. Plus, like, if you're dealing with an international bank like Credit Suisse that should be one of the largest players in the entire world, the fact the stock likes to dip below $3 is absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, let's just look at where it should be. Like Credit Suisse, $72. That is first-rate blue chip stock price right there. And the market collapses as it does, and when the market collapses, it goes down to $25 because the entire economy of the world has shit the bed. It rebounds back up to $50, and it's just been a steady decline ever since. And Evergrande was what? We're about here? Well, it's 2020. Evergrande was 2021. Yeah, $10 when they took on those giant losses. And ever since then, it's just been down, 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 down. I mean, when the hiccup does come, I don't think Credit Suisse will exist. I don't think they'll be around anymore. SJ, happy belated birthday, Houston. Are you late or are you early? I don't know. Whisper, happy birthday, Houston. In your opinion, if crypto didn't exist, do you think MOAS would have happened by now, or do you think they'd find another tulip to keep their assets under management propped up? That's a good question, because you have to think about how many crypto bros are out there. And there's a few of you crypto bros that are in the chat right now. Like, there's hundreds of billions of dollars that have been spent on cryptocurrencies that could have been spent on anything else, right? So my guess is that the market would probably be even more inflated than it is now if it wasn't for crypto kind of spreading out the interest. It's like how TV ratings aren't where they used to be, because, you know, back in the 50s, you had 3 networks, and every single time, you know, I Love Lucy came on, it was like a record holder for the most people watching a TV show. But as we made more network television stations, as we introduced cable TV, the viewer share got smaller and smaller, so only large events like the Super Bowl would get huge viewership numbers. And then we had computers and the internet and video games and, you know, all sorts of things like Twitter and Facebook, whatever, taking people's attention away from television. And so now the share of folks who can watch TV is smaller than ever, with the most television networks there have ever been. So the stock market's kind of the same way. Like, imagine if the hundreds of billions of dollars spent on Bitcoin and Doge and Ethereum and everything else didn't exist, and instead all that money was being spent by a bunch of bros in the market, what that would mean for the price of all this stuff. I think it would be a whole different league right now. We would have 2-3 times as much money into these meme stocks at the moment, and that might be enough to push it all over the edge, right? Bill Coin, what if Houston will have interesting topics affecting the world to review, or will it be open mic? It's open mic, Bill. Okay. Wait. Jersey's saying Bed Bath & Beyond. What's happening? Yeah, Bed Bath & Beyond not doing anything. It's down to $1.39. It's lower than ever. Should have waited a week to buy my options if that's the case. Chris Domkowski. I have Fidelity on chat telling me they would have closed all shorts, but refused to confirm that happened. Operative term would have, among many other nice ones. Yeah. One sec, the world is rebooting. Jersey, is it me, or do they want to ban retail participation in gray market and thus OTC? That's what it sounds like. But if they ban retail participation in the OTC, then how are they going to short the OTC? They need us, right? If their entire business model is built upon shorting to us, and then no one can buy those stocks except, you know, the pros, and the pros aren't going to get shorted too because they don't play that way. Who are they going to sell to? How are they going to do anything? I don't understand what their goal is here. Just ban naked short selling and everything's fine. That's all I have to do. No negative short selling. All the problems go away. Citizen 54 thoughts about Citadel, New York Stock Exchange, and Vanguard complaining about new SEC rules. Reads like a thinly veiled hostage letter. Regulate us and everything implodes. Thoughts? Let everything implode. Implode everything. Just light the fuse, man. Bring it down. Thunk. I mean, their threats are basically what needs to happen to the market anyway. So it's kind of empty threats. Like, the market's going to implode in a terrible, terrible, terrible way. Now we can blame you, right? So I don't really see like where their threats can get to at all. Like, monkey butt. If say, monkey butt, you were chasing a deer, which you love to do. You love to chase a deer on the woods. You're chasing a deer, and the deer is like, man, if you keep chasing me, I'm gonna have to change the rules. And then your monkey butt, you're like, well, if you make rule changes, it means I'm gonna chase you. Doesn't really have an effect upon the situation that's happening at all. Monkey butt still chasing the deer. Deer still being chased. At some point, someone's gonna tire or get killed. That's just the inevitability, man. Citizen 54, YouTube does not notify even with notifications on. This channel is being suppressed. Help, help, I'm being suppressed. It's all right. A couple hundred of you found me at least. Maybe they all found me from Twitter. I don't know. Oh, there's everyone noticing in the chat that I didn't turn off the intro. I remember thinking, okay, intro's playing. I'm going to scratch the dog's butt for 5 seconds, and then I'll come back, and I'll turn off the intro. And then I didn't actually turn off the intro. I distracted myself, dude. It's your fault. I'm going to blame you. There's SG. Let's look back. Houston got distracted. It's double intro incoming. You guys knew it was coming. All right. Chris Collins, anyone know the truth about Judge commenting 90 days from Rose's complaint filing? I think it has to do with 90 days from the last thing that was filed. So it'll be her response and their motion, her response to the motion, and her motion to reconsider, I think is when there's 90 days. So we're like, what, 40 days in? So there's time. There's lots of time still. The judge is going to seems like they're just going to sit back and just wait as long as possible. I think possibly the judge is waiting for like brokers or FINRA to do something, and the brokers and FINRA are waiting for the judge to do something. So they're just going to like wait until one of them hits a ceiling and has to say something. All right. Houston, we're still waiting on Rosa. Oh yeah, I should message her and try. I was gonna try and get her on. I'm gonna try and do Ron on Wednesday. Ron Erickson from No Labs. I got to confirm with him. New York Times guy got back to me about MMTLP, so I'm doing a phone call with him tomorrow. That'll be interesting. There's little things happening in the cosmos. John Castro called E-Trade today about NextBridge. They're waiting on instructions to distribute. Didn't they already get those instructions like 3 months ago? Huh. Brian Strange, Fidelity situation in my mind means they made everyone not eligible for dividend or anything related to NextBridge. No, I think they're still eligible for dividends because there's still going to be payment in lieu and all that stuff that would be involved. It's just that Fidelity screwed up the tax basis. So if magically the markets do turn on, right, and you get to sell, if you want to sell, you sell $1,000 a share, whatever it's for, your cost basis right now is 0, which is not true because you paid money for those shares. It should be whatever you paid for those shares should be what the cost basis is. And it's short-term taxes. So rather than having long-term capital gains because you've held for more than a year, and so you pay 15% or whatever, you're going to be paying 37.5% on that money. So not only will your profit look larger than it really is because you actually do have a cost basis that's whatever you pay for those stocks, but you're going to be paying more in taxes for them than you should be. Fidelity really screwed the pooch on this one. And they're probably going to be looking at lawsuits and all sorts of things. And, you know, people from the IRS going, wait a minute, you're screwing your people over. It's weird. All right. Daphne loves the shirt. It's a good shirt. It's a good shirt. It's got the hibiscus on it. It's got the plumeria on it. This is as Hawaii as it gets right here. And if you guys have never smelled a plumeria tree in bloom, it is heaven. It is like, you can smell it from blocks away. Boom, those plumeria blossoms go out and the entire neighborhood will just have the most lovely perfume to it. Oh, hibiscus flowers, to me personally, hibiscus flowers are like, I don't know. The bush is kind of ugly. The flowers are kind of flimsy. I mean, they can be everywhere. And then from far away, they look really good. But up close, you're like, yeah, it's kind of a flimsy flower. Plumeria petals, like you hold a plumeria petal in your fingers. It is one of the most satisfying textures in the world. Not only does it smell amazing, it just feels so good. Like I can just rub a plumeria flower all over me and it just feel wonderful. So go to Hawaii, go to a plumeria tree and just wait for it to bloom and then be happy. There's your meaning of life right there. Plumeria trees blooming. Barbara L. is looking at her QSIP. Is now 8-digit number with a D in the middle. I'll wait a few hours, it might change again. That's kind of how it seems to be working. I think my QSIP has changed 4 times since December. So, you know, whatevs. Jethro Houston, what are your thoughts on the blip theory to describe inflation flare-up? Or do you think it's likely to continue? Blip theory? I have not read anything about a blip theory. So blip theory inflation. Fed wrestles whether recent data blip or warning 4 days ago. Well, no one sent me this article. Blink. Okay. Washington U.S. Federal Reserve wrestled Thursday with whether recent data showing inflation, job spending all hotter than expected was a blip or a sign that even higher interest rates could be required to slow price rises. Well, I mean, we already know higher interest rates are required to. So it's amazing how you can close this thing and then it just reappears again. Separate comments from the Fed Governor Chris Waller and Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic. Posed a question central to the next phase of the Fed's battle to lower inflation. Is monetary policy again slipping behind the curve of surprisingly strong economy that needs even tighter conditions? Adobe, go away. Or is slower growth and lower inflation already in train? we talked about this last week, that they need to raise interest rates to about 10% to combat inflation, and they've not gotten there. And they're raising too slowly, so that inflation is still outpacing whatever interest rates that they're doing. They need to make the interest rates absolutely punishable. And Adobe, quit going there. And they're not raising them fast enough. What they do instead is that they threaten, it might be a 0.75 basis point or a 100 basis point raise, and they do it 25, so the market goes, woohoo, yay, and inflation continues. Because it's not as bad as we thought. It reminds me of Beer Fest, when the American team is like sloppy and they can't do anything right, and it comes down to like the final chug-a-lug for Beer Fest, and the Americans were like rope-a-dope the entire time, and they're like, we are not that drunk, and they're like, oh, they're not that drunk. That's kind of what happens every month when the Fed only raises 25 basis points. Is they're like, they're not that drunk, and everyone celebrates. What they need to do, what the Fed needs to do, is they need to say, oh, you know what, there'll probably be a 25 basis point rise in interest rates next month, and then do a 75 or a 100. Do the opposite. Punish them. Get the SPY to go wonk, and make interest rates actually painful. It's the only way to actually combat inflation. It sucks. It's sort of like that austerity crap that people will be out of work and whatever. But you have to prepare for actually fixing the problem, which is probably the only good thing Reagan's Federal Reserve did in the 80s, was make punishing interest rates to stop inflation. It sucked. It hurt. And everything else the Reagan administration did, we've been dealing with ever since. But most of those are, cultural aspects of our society that have been absolutely damaged. But the Federal Reserve got that part right. You had to actually whip inflation. You had to make interest rates punishable. And we just haven't gotten there yet. Okay, that's the blip one. Crud. I lost my spot again. Okay, there's the 8-digit. There's blip one. Okay. All right. Now rule, AST has no limits of shares they can take. Well, they can only take real shares. They can't take any fake shares. There had been instances where brokers were sending warrants and not actual shares to... Meow? Hey, buddy. You want to come in? Sorry, the cat's meowing at the door. He wants to come in and say hi to everybody. All right, cat. All right, you little fatty. That they were sending warrants and not shares, and AST's like, we can't take warrants. You have to bring us actual shares, which is really weird because only the issuer is supposed to write warrants and not anyone else. Oh, there's the cattail. There's the cattail. And so who's writing these warrants if the issuer is not doing it is the weird thing. Are the brokers like counterfeiting warrants now? Is that what's happening? Is that what's happening, cattail that flops around all the time? Weird, scratchy little purr machine. Yes, you are. Okay. Oh, such a strong purr. Do you want to get in the purr microphone? Oh, yeah. That's it. Oh, so good. Oh, you're so scratchy. Okay. Got distracted by the cat. Now I lost my spot again. Jethro, what are your thoughts on... Oh, it's the flip one. I just read that one. Duh. SS Minnow Johnson. Ziwatanayo. Ziwatanayo. Oh, Ziwatanayo. There you go. Well, Shawshank Redemption ended. Ziwatanayo. That's how you say it. I cannot spell, sound out anything. I'm just a big illiterate monster. Okay. Ziwatanayo. Texas to Ziwatanayo. It looks like a great town. Gfont AHW, have you read up on window dressing periods? There are collateral shortages at the end of quarters, as banks lend out to less to shore up their books. Might be volatility at the end of this month. Well, that'd be great. I've not read up about it, but we do love ourselves some volatility, don't we? All right, window dressing periods. Window dressing periods. Window dressing is a term used to describe cosmetic changes a financial institution might make, often near the end of a reporting period, to improve its appearance to investors. The term is inspired by an entirely different sector, consumer retail. Okay. All right. Good to know. Daphne the Blob terrified me as a child. Hated that movie. I thought it was under my bed spreading out to eat my floor with me. I remember watching The Blob as a kid and being like, this is ridiculous. And then I also around the same time I watched Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, and I would, for some reason, my brain as a kid confused the two of them. That's kind of mashed them into The Blob / Attack of the Killer Tomatoes into one movie. I feel like I should watch Attack of the Killer Tomatoes again, just so that I can rectify that discrepancy in my head. It's been like 37 years, but yeah. All right, people having the conversations. David Hagen, hi Daphne. Hope you are well. As a child, I remember a movie with kids stuck on a barge and a blob in the water eating them. 2 months ago, found Creepshow, 2 light bulbs. Ah, well, there you go. Daphne, original Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead really scared me. The original Dawn of the Dead was an interesting one. I did love the remake, and how Zack Snyder went from that to like all of his really terrible comic book movies, I don't know. Because that original, that remake of Dawn of the Dead was just superb. And his comic book movies have all been so subpar ever since then. It's really weird, like his Watchmen movie, he literally had the storyboard. He had the entire graphic novel. He filmed it shot for shot of the graphic novel, and it still felt like he didn't understand what he was filming. You know? It's just the weirdest thing. Like, here you have the original book storyboarded out for you. You filmed it shot for shot according to the graphic novel, and it didn't feel like you understood what the message of the book was. Meanwhile, the HBO Watchmen, which is sort of like the sequel after everything happened in the graphic novel, was so superb. And the fact they didn't make a season 2, I think, is criminal. Just one of the best shows, I think, made. Just absolutely superior to Zack Snyder's version. Night of the Lumpus. I've never heard of that one. Julianne, they won't ban short selling until people start pulling out of their money out of the stock market so they can only gobble up each other's money and not retailers. That's probably true. We just put our money into cash accounts and say adieu, which will probably happen if we do get a win. If we get a short squeeze win, we'll probably be like, we're out. We're going to go invest in ice cream shops and local restaurants and whatever else. Stephen Hagen, no, it's black and white about giant killer rabbits. I think regular bunny or a dollhouse for special effects. Mojax, you know, Fidelity changed their AMC insignia. I saw it online, couldn't believe it, so I went there myself, couldn't believe it. Did they? I'll have to look. I mean, I've got the app on my phone. What's it look like? Yes, log in. Yes. Put your thumbprint there. I mean, it looks like the regular AMC symbol to me. Looks like regular AMC. I don't see anything different. Course directs, when you come from MMTLP and AMC News, end up getting PhD dark matter for free. Thanks, Houston. Oh, you're welcome. Most hand wavy. It's so hard to explain beginning of the universe in a hand wavy way without like talking about like grand unified theory and everything else that leads up to that. It's just, I have some slides for my astronomy class, and even then I'm like, for you intro people. When you get into like deep space astronomy, cosmology, we'll worry about this stuff. But right now, just know it's in the corner of your brain and doesn't make any sense. It's good enough for me. Julianne, when was the last time there was a major discovery in physics? Discovering the Higgs boson, probably, with the Large Hadron Collider. That, or using the gravitational, the LIGO, Linear Gravitational Observatory, the one in Washington, the one in Louisiana, to identify and pinpoint two neutron stars that end up colliding, making a black hole. That was huge. What else? What are the big ones we got? Those are probably two biggest I can think of off the top of my head. And those are all within the last 10 years. And since then, the LIGO observatories are some of the most incredible engineering in the entire universe. Have we talked about the LIGO observatories? I know I'll bring it up in my astronomy classes. LIGO Observatory. So there's two of them. There's one in Hanford, Washington, and there's one in somewhere in Louisiana. And they're huge. Let's see here. Let's do images. Here we go. All right. So each one of these is like 3 miles long. And this is the one in Louisiana, surrounded by trees. So it's nice and flat. It has to be absolutely perfectly flat. There cannot be any glitch. It has to go with the curve of the Earth for 3 miles, so perfectly flat by curve of the Earth. And it has to be exactly 90 degrees. It is some really, really, really incredible engineering. So here's the two-way mirror. So what they do is they got lasers. Ping! And we'll actually have one laser. One laser hits a 50% mirror at a 45-degree angle, splits the beam in two ways, exactly 90 degrees, and hits a mirror at the far end, comes back. If space-time gets warped in any way, shape, or form on either the X or the Y axis by any little bit, those lasers don't come back in phase and don't cancel each other out when they hit that mirror again. And if everything's working perfectly, if there is no weird gravitational waves coming through the universe causing micro perturbations in space-time, then those lasers come back from their far mirrors, meet back at the first mirror, and then cancel each other out, and you don't see them. But if just like a nanometer of the Earth is warped in one direction or the other, they come in out of phase, they both pass through that mirror and hit detectors, and you go, oh shit, there's some gravitational waves passing through us. And having both of those detectors going at the same time, one in Washington, one in Louisiana, you can start to triangulate and pinpoint where in the universe those gravitational waves are coming from based upon the time that the warpings happened. It took about 30 years for them to calibrate this machine. Like, they started building it back in the 80s, and they finally got it calibrated a few years ago. And the first time it worked was when they had these two neutron stars collide, would make all these crazy heavy metals like gold and uranium and stuff in their explosion. And And since then, we've seen massive black holes collide with each other, small black holes, plants get eaten by black holes, all sorts of weird stuff happen from those gravitational waves. And when you get these two massive objects spiraling into each other, they make these like ripples in a pond type thing that pulsate throughout the universe, and as it passes through objects, stretches them one direction or the other because the space-time is all warped. It is general relativity at work and just absolutely mind-blowing physics. That A, someone was able to come up with this theory. B, they're able to engineer it so that you have these. I mean, these lasers are shooting 3 miles away from each other, hit a mirror, bounce back, and they have to come in perfectly in phase. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to measure any of this stuff. It's incredible. Do you guys realize how small of an error you have to mitigate for to be able to make lasers that have, a 440 nanometer frequency? Just crazy. Gino just signed an extension. Way to go, Gino. Gino Smith, comeback player of the year. Mr. riding the bench for a decade, comes in, leads the Seahawks to the playoffs, while Russell Wilson flounders at the mile high. Just good story there. From physics to Geno Smith. Excellent. How much is his extension for? Because he's only getting like $1 million last year. Geno Smith extension. Boom. 3-year contract, $105 million. Boy finally got paid. Way to go, Geno. $30+ million a year for 3 years. Not bad, buddy. It's better than $1 million here in this last year. Okay, good job. Good job. Okay. All right. Good job. Good job. Way to go, Gino. Way to get paid. Get paid almost as much as Russell Wilson, and you actually get to win games. So, hey, good job. Justin Wright, thoughts? If you know who Dr. Richard Lindzen is, he's very, very credited and has his views on views of climate are not the views of the current idea where climate change is heading. I don't know who Dr. Lindzen is. Dr. Lindzen. Dr. Richard Lindzen. American atmospheric physicist known for his work dynamics in the middle atmosphere. Quasi-biennial oscillation, middle period, climate sensitivity. Lindzen worked Chapter 7 of the 2001 IPCC, working Group 1, which considers physical processes that are active in real-world climate. He had previously been a contributor to Chapter 4 of 95 IPCC. He described the full 2001 IPCC report's admirable description of research activities in climate science, although he criticized summary of policymakers. Lindzen stated in May 2001 that it did not summarize the IPCC report, but had been amended to state more definite conclusions. He also emphasized the fact that the summary had not been written by scientists alone. Okay. He works at the Cato Institute. Ugh. Okay, so Cato Institute, for you guys who don't know, Cato Institute was founded by the Koch brothers, who have a financial interest in there not being any climate change because they are oil men and plastics men, and therefore cannot have the world get destroyed based on their business. So Lindzen prominently quoted in the brochure of the conference, the notion of global warming as a fact will be catastrophic is drilled into people to the point where it seems surprising that anyone would question it. And yet underlying it is very little evidence at all. Nonetheless, there are statements made of such overt unrealism that I feel embarrassed. I feel it discredits science. I think problems will arise when one will need to depend on scientific judgment, and by ruining our credibility now, you leave society with a resource of some importance diminished. When was that? 2019? And he works at Cato now. So he's basically paid for by the oil lobby. No. Okay. No, so that was 1990s. That was 1991 when he made that statement. Okay. So, he'd be wrong. I mean, the 10 hottest years ever recorded, right, have all happened in the last 10 years. So, it would seem that stuff like, we had this benchmark for a while, which was 1998. 1998 was crazy warm. The El Nino was off the charts. California got pounded with crazy storms, huge surf, whatever. And it was just a wild ride. But then 2005 hit. 2005 was warmer than 1998. Like, oh, that's weird. And then 2010 hit. 2010 was warmer than 2005. Then all of a sudden, 2011 was warmer than 2010. 2012 was warmer than 2011, and so on. And every year has almost been warmer than the previous year. They've all been warmer than the previous 10 years, for sure. And we're seeing global warming in action. To say, when scientists say, like, well, it's not a concrete fact, we know for a fact that CO2 absorbs infrared heat, or at least reflects it back to the surface, thus insulating the Earth's atmosphere from being able to radiate heat away. If I were to cover you in a blanket, right, you are radiating heat out of your body because you have chemical reactions going inside your body. Your metabolism keeps you nice and warm. You radiate heat outwards. The blanket traps that heat, allowing very little of it to escape. So at night, when you get too warm, what do? You like kick your covers off, right? To like radiate your heat away because you're getting too warm. What if instead of being able to kick those covers off, I threw another blanket on top of you, right? Would you get warmer? Yes, you would. And then I said, no. There's no such thing as human bed warming. You were wrong. And I worked for the blanket lobby, and I just put a third blanket on you because, I got to make my money, right? So I threw a third blanket on you, and you're like now turning into like a prune, sweating everything you have in your body out of you. And you're like, oh my God, I'm dying. And I'm like, you saying that you're dying right now is kind of like, I think it's going a little overboard. It kind of negates all the science that's going on right now. I wouldn't say such extreme things. And by the end, I'm going to throw a fourth blanket on you right now, insulate you even more. That's sort of where the Cato Institute's coming from. It looked like Lindzen had some legit science he did until 1991. But so far in practice and empirical studies of just experiencing life every day, the Earth is warming. And we can directly attribute that warming to the increase of greenhouse gases in our atmosphere, the blankets that are covering us. And he likes to, so here, this is his Wikipedia article that I'm just gathering it here. 2009 editorial Wall Street Journal, Lindzen said that the Earth was just emerging from the Little Ice Age, 19th century. It says that it's not surprising to see warming after that. Okay. The Little Ice Age was us returning back to glaciation. So we're on cycles, right? We go up and down, we go through glaciation, go through interglacial periods. The warmest period after the interglacial, so when we had the last ice age, was about 6,000 to 8,000 years ago. And temperatures were actually warmer than they are right now. Since then, we've been in a cooling period heading back to glaciation. So we should be getting colder every year and not getting warmer. And so by him saying that, we just had a little ice age, that's all, that was us beginning the new glacial period. And we pumped out so much CO2 in the atmosphere that we stopped the natural cycle of the Earth. And instead of getting colder, we warmed. So he's already wrong on just like a paleogeologic scale right here. we're talking a few tenths of a degree change in temperature, none of it in the last 8 years, by the way. And if we had warming, it should be accomplished by less storminess. What? Okay, that right there, for being an atmospheric scientist, he doesn't really seem to know how the atmosphere works. So warm atmosphere and warm oceans makes for powerful storms. That's why hurricanes exist in the 28 degree centigrade thermocline and above, because there's a lot more energy in warmer oceans. Thus, there's more evaporative power. Thus, it creates more powerful storms due to just rampant evaporation and heat rising. Because as we know, how it rains, the air warms, water evaporates, air rises, where it cools, condenses, and begins raining again. You get a whole bunch of water evaporating, you get a lot of updraft, and you get really big storm clouds. So for being an atmospheric scientist, he really seems to be not stating how physics actually works. Of increased storminess when the physics says we should see less. No, the physics do not say that at all, dude. That's wrong. It's basically just little kids locking themselves in dark closets to see how they can scare each other and themselves. He seems to be actually ignoring the actual physics yeah. Okay, he's wrong. Cat, you come in here? Come on, don't step on the keyboard. Okay. So based on weak argument, current models used by IPCC couldn't reproduce warming from about 78 to 98 without some forcing, and that the only forcing they could think of was man. Even this argument assumes that these models adequately deal with natural internal variability, that is, such naturally occurring cycles as El Nino, Pacific decadodal oscillation, Atlantic multi-decadodal oscillation, etc. Yet articles from major modeling centers acknowledge that the failure of these models to anticipate the absence of warming for the past dozen years was due to failure of these models to account for this natural variability. Thus, even basis for the weak IPCC argument, anthropogenic climate change, was shown to be false. This guy's terrible at his job. Okay, so my older sister Rachel, she was getting a PhD in oceanography, ended up dropping out, getting a master's degree, then doing some other PhD work in physics, whatnot. But her master's degree in oceanography was all about these natural cycles. Okay, let's bring up the Google Earth here, and I can show you what she did for her master's. Google Earth, bam. All right, well, we're already on that air region. Okay, so look at this part of the ocean right here, off of Costa Rica. So we've got natural wind cycles that happen. And over the equator, so we've got equator right here, ding, 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 going right through. Over the equator, you get the most direct sunlight. And as a result of the most direct sunlight, you get a huge amount of air rising in the air, making all sorts of storm clouds and stuff. There's not too much lateral winds because the air is going straight up. But what happens is over Costa Rica, you get a whole bunch of winds that come off the Caribbean to kind of fill in this air that rises. So as the air rises, the air has to come from somewhere else. So it's coming, these big winds come over Costa Rica, and they blow away a bunch of the top layer of the ocean. You get this cold upwelling. So the water in this part of the Pacific, even though it's like tropical, right? It should get direct sunlight. There's constant wind blowing over it, causing a lot of upwelling of really cold air. And so the warmer things get, the more wind blows over this, and the more air you get blowing even harder. It's just like an ongoing cycle, which is why like the Galapagos here, pretty close to the equator, almost on the equator. So the equator is right here. Oops. So yeah, equator is right in here. Right about there, the equator. The water around the Galapagos is actually really cold. It's like 65 degrees. It's not warm like you would think, tropical, because of this upwelling that happens from all these winds blowing from the Caribbean over Costa Rica, blowing all the warm water towards the west, and all this cold water upwelling from deep in the ocean. Okay. What they found is that in El Nino years, right? In El Nino years, this wind kind of slows down for some reason, which allows for all this chunk of the Pacific to warm up to temperatures that normally wouldn't warm up to. So off the coast of Peru, the water starts getting really warm all of a sudden because those winds have shut down. and it fucks with every single solitary climate cycle there is on Earth. And as a result, the jet streams get all weird. The Humboldt Current kind of turns off down the coast, and the jet streams that normally would pound like Seattle move south because just the way that the lack of wind happens further to south makes everything just kind of move one step further south. So California gets pounded with storms. Pounded. Seattle sits high and dry. So high pressure systems that normally be much further north move south and sit over Seattle. And the high pressures that would be over California moving further south over like Mexico. And so this guy is claiming that these are just natural cycles and stuff. But if things are warming more than they should be, right, you're going to get these cycles going to extremes as a result of whether the air is getting warmer at the equator or not. So I don't really see... And like he's talking about the oscillation cycle in the Atlantic not having any effect by humans. But we've already talked about this before, that the more glaciers melt into the ocean, the more fresh water layer there is on top of the oceanic layer, which will push the entire Gulf Stream current under that fresh water, making for a colder North Atlantic. And that's the result of warming. It's colder because of warming. It kind of defies the brain. But if Greenland melts entirely into the ocean, Gulf Stream shuts off, all of Northern Europe turns into ice, and everything else gets really warm. So I don't really know what he's trying to accomplish with what he's saying. It's kind of like word salad, gobbledygook. But 2012, Lindzen accepts the elementary tenets of climate science. He agrees that carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, calling people who dispute that point nutty. He agrees that the level of it is rising is because of human activity, and this should warm the climate. He also believes that decreasing tropical cirrus clouds in a warmer period would allow for more long-wave radiation to escape the atmosphere, countering the warming. Lindzen first published Iris Theory in 2001 and offered more support in 2009 paper. Okay. You guys know what cirrus clouds are? Cirrus clouds are these wispy horsetail-like clouds that sit at like 60, 70,000 feet in the atmosphere. They're made up of ice particles. And they reflect back a lot of light from the sun. They kind of make for those hazy things. Usually you'll see them about a day before a storm system arrives because they're up there with the jet stream and they get blown ahead of the storm system. So if you're having a nice day and you see these like really high clouds come in, you can kind of figure that in the next 24 hours it might be kind of cloudy and rainy the next day because they get blown in ahead of the storms. His previous comments were saying that warming shouldn't increase storms, but physics states they would increase storms because warming is energy and energy makes storms. So he wants to somehow cut back on the cirrus clouds in the tropics, blaming them for not letting long wave radiation out, when the cirrus clouds are being created because we're making more storms because it got warmer. This dude, I don't know what he's trying to do here. Okay. Okay. Christopher Bretherton, atmospheric researcher at the University of Washington, said Lindzen is feeding upon an audience that wants to hear a certain message and wants to hear it put forth by people with enough scientific reputation that can be sustained for a while, even if it's wrong science. Ouch. I don't think it's intellectually honest at all. Kerry Manuel, another MIT scientist, said Lindzen's views, even if it were no political implications, even if there were no political implications, it just seems deeply unprofessional and irresponsible to look at this and say, we're sure it's not a problem. It's kind of special risk because it's a risk to the collective of civilization. Okay. All right. Lindzen's called contrarian in relation to climate change and other issues. Lindzen's graduate students describe him as fiercely intelligent with a deep contrarian streak. So it seems to be that he just likes to go against the grain and will develop rhetoric to support that, even if it's in the face of what's actually true. That's annoying. Okay. Lindsay Contrarian has been reinforced by reports he claims that lung cancer has only been weakly linked to smoking. When asked about this during an interview as part of the Australian Broadcasting Corporation documentary, Lindsay said that while this case for secondhand tobacco is not very good, the World Health Organization has said that, referencing 1987 International Agency Research Cancer on Environment, tobacco smoke. On the other hand, that with first-hand smoke, it's a more interesting issue. The case for lung cancer is very good, but also ignores the fact that there are differences in people's susceptibilities, which Japanese studies have pointed to. And again, when asked to clarify his position, Lindsay wrote, there is a reasonable case for the role of cigarette smoking in lung cancer, but that the case was not so strong that one should rule that any questions were out of order. The much, much weaker case against secondhand smoke is also being treated as dogma. Okay, so he takes on the tobacco lobby's model as well. That's interesting. Huh. Okay. Anyway, why are we talking about Lindsay? Oh, because he doesn't really believe in climate change. He seems like someone who did some strong scientific work early in his life and then got a job with the Cato Institute and completely flipped. That's what seems to be to me. So 1991, all of a sudden he was like, I'm off the climate change train. And he's been pretty much wrong ever since then. Yeah. All right. Ian Kershaw, James Webb Telescope, 6 Big Bang photos. Or the Big Bang photos? Galaxy massive black holes. Whoa. Let's see where we go here. Okay. James Webb Space Telescope, 6 Big Bang photos. From February. Discovers enormous distant galaxies that should not exist. Nobody expected them. They were not supposed to be there, and now nobody can explain how they formed. Well, this is, I don't know if this is what you're talking about, but this is where we are. That's from February 22nd. Galaxies nearly as massive as the Milky Way and full of mature red stars seems to be dispersed in deep field images obtained by... Okay, this is not how that works. Oh, this is space.com. You should have an astronomer write this, dude. Okay. All right. These distant galaxies are red because they're far away, not because they're full of mature red stars. That right there. Whoever wrote this article, Teresa Poltarova. Let's see here. A London-based science technology journalist, science fiction writer, amateur gymnast. So she's not an astronomer. Okay, that's why. So later. This is Doppler shift. The universe is expanding away from itself, so everything is expanding away from everything else. And just like when a car drives by, it goes, the waves of sound get compressed as they come towards you, and they get elongated as they go away. So the sound pitch is higher as it comes to you, and it's lower as it drives away. Right? Same thing happens with light. Is if something comes towards you, it gets compressed, it becomes bluer. If it's going away from you, it gets elongated, stretched, it becomes redder. These galaxies are probably, if they're really far away, they're probably emitting in wavelengths well beyond visible light. You know, ultraviolet, X-ray, whatever. And they've since been redshifted into the color spectrum. And so these are not galaxies full of mature red stars. These are regular galaxies, probably quasars, early galaxies in the universe that are broadcasting in all sorts of wavelengths. It's just been redshifted and turned red. They're not mature. They're just new, but redshifted. Okay. So anyway, that might not be the one you want me to look for. Big Bang photos, galaxy or massive black holes. Galaxy, massive black holes. I'm not seeing that. You may have to send me a link to that so I can talk about that later. I don't know necessarily what to search for that one. Oh, there's the reset again. Quit resetting, man. I'm trying to read. Okay, there's Oompa Loompas. There is the lens in question. There's James Webb Space Telescope. All right. Pat Phillip, Houston. Why is Michigan, northern peninsula, home to the world's largest limestone cement quarries? I mean, I don't know that particularly, but my guess is probably because of ocean floor at one time. Google Earth. Scene. Google Earth. Okay, so it was ocean at one time because the car industry is based here. What? How does that make any sense? Okay, so Michigan is home to these ancient fossils, stromatolite fossils. And stromatolite fossils, excuse me, there's the only ones that exist are still in Australia, but early ones started forming when the Earth's atmosphere wasn't very oxygen rich, and were one of the first things that photosynthesize our atmosphere. And so they're like something that would be in the tidal areas in a tropical environment, and they're kind of proto-coral reefs in that they create like a limestone layer. But because early Earth, when these things formed, didn't have much oxygen going on, iron could exist in an innate state that wouldn't be oxidized. And the stromatolites pulled iron from the soil to make their little rocky life forms, and it didn't oxidize. And so they made this stuff that'd be sort of like limestone, iron, limestone, iron, limestone, iron. And if you cut the old stromatolite fossil, you get this really cool tiger banding in the rock. Let's see if I can find stromatolite banded iron. Okay, here we go. Here's some images. Image. Okay, I gotta turn off the Google Earth so you can see. So here's what it would look like. So you take a stromatolite, you cut it, you do a thin section, and it makes these really beautiful kind of tiger stripey things. So it's like a limestone-ish layer, limestone-ish layer, iron layer. And the car industry is based in Michigan, largely, GM, Chrysler, Ford, they're all in Detroit because the banded iron formations were in Michigan. So there's lots and lots and lots and lots of these ancient stromatolites that they would dig up, get the iron out, and make the steel for the cars. And they're beautiful. I would love to actually have a thin section of a banded iron formation. They're just, some of these are just so pretty. So the stromatolites, they kind of look like these little blobs. If we look at stromatolites today, they look like little pillows. So these are the ones in Australia. They're like little pillows in the tidelands. And these are stromatolites. They don't get the same banded iron formations today as they did back then because we've got heavy oxygen-rich atmosphere. And then oxygen-rich atmosphere now oxidizes all the iron. And so that doesn't do as good a job. So here's some fossilized stromatolites. Where's this one? Glacier National Park. So probably get some banded iron inside of this as well. Anyway, go back to Google Earth. Oops, wrong one. That's me. I wanted to click off this. There. Okay. So the banded iron formations are found all over the place. Also, like tons of copper and stuff in here too from Abitibi Greenbelt. So the reason why you might get a whole bunch of limestone and limestone quarries, which looks like these might be that. These look very white. They look like they could be. Is that if you're having stromatolites, then you had shoreline for coral reefs, and you had shoreline for coral reefs. You had the impetus to build all sorts of limestone rock and lithify the coral into these rocks. So my guess is that every single one of these things you can see from space is probably limestone quarries. So it looks like, just from how white it is, these are limestone quarries for making cement and stuff. So that'd be my guess as to why it's there. Same reason that the car industry is there is the same reason that limestone is there, is that this was all an ancient seafloor at one time. Shallow seafloor at that. Cool. Cat, you're now in the way of the questions. You're coming back over my lap. Come on. Come on. Come on over. As long as you get out of the way so I can read. Okay, let's go back to Big Houston. Houston, plumeria isn't from Hawaii, it's from Brazil. Though tropical America, through tropical America into Mexico, everywhere in Lima, obviously not natural as it is desert. Then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Plumeria is so delicious on the senses. Absolutely wonderful. Ubi, credit rating for Bed Bath & Beyond upgraded from D to CCC. Woohoo! Look out, boys. We went from junk bond status to slightly worse junk bond status. All right. Daphne, I've been following GTII. I still have not been following GTII the way I need. I've got some updated read material on Alpine, which seems to be like a predatory lender who has now lent too much and can't get any of their money back, and they're about to go under. And if they go under, then the closing of GTII shares and others may have to happen. So that's what I gather. But the AVCTQ is having an auction tomorrow. Not sure what that will entail or mean to shareholders. I don't know either, Daphne. Not a clue. Jay, they have to raise rates like 3% higher if they want to actually bring inflation down. Exactly. It has to be about 10% probably for them to actually start handling inflation. Drew, hey, Houston. I live in the suburbs of Atlanta, and everyone thinks I'm dumb for saying homes around here will be going for dirt cheap soon. They think because it's cheaper here than big cities, prices won't drop. Oh no, prices will definitely drop. Yeah, they'll prices everywhere will drop on homes. People aren't applying for mortgages because who wants to pay a mortgage at an interest rate that's crazy high than it was a year ago, right? People who bought homes are going to be underwater. And if they're underwater, what do? They go, I'm going to stop paying my mortgage. And they get it foreclosed on. Or they do short sales and just walk away from that. Just collect the cash or whatever. And then there are the fact that prices have to come down because the real price, which is what people can afford, right? Their monthly payment is different now than it was a year and a half ago. So if you could afford a $600,000 house a year ago, you can afford a $350,000, right? If interest rates go to 10%, make that $250,000. It's going to affect everyone because everyone deals with the same. Although, as we learned in the last show, there's that Bank of America program specifically designed for cities like Atlanta for no down payment, low interest rate. So that might benefit folks in Atlanta a little more, especially in areas that have been historically redlined. So, Terry Martinez. So HW has a cat, has a black cat that always crosses his path, and a doggo named Monkey Butt Destroyer of Worlds. He is a dark wizard. Phantasm freaked me out. You guys, I still have it up here. Phantasm. Oh yeah. Oh, you piece of chocolate. You stay up there. All right. Speaking of Phantasm, any of you ever play Phantasmagoria games? A puzzle of flesh. These are like the video capture games that are really big in the mid 90s, where you did like a puzzle game and there'd be like actors in a digital field and you'd be playing it out. I bought this game used from Half Price Books for $24.98, probably when I was like 14 years old or something, and discovered that it's basically just a bunch of porn actors just having sex. With some sort of murder mystery involved. Actually, I remember like getting to a point where the cat moved the camera again. Getting stuck to the point where like the main character kept getting locked in an insane asylum and couldn't get out, and my game was over. And I was like, well, that was very satisfying. But the way it saved, it kept saving over the same file. So it wasn't like I could go back and reopen and continue my game. So I never actually finished the game. I just kept getting stuck in the insane asylum. Such is life. Anyway, thinking of Phantasm, maybe think of Phantasmagoria, and the essentially porn video games are coming out in 1994, 95. Well, the main character lady, so there's like a dude who's a main character, and then there's like his love interest lady that he's like constantly banging. She was in a whole bunch of episodes of Walker, Texas Ranger. I remember like in high school, I'm like, that's the lady from that porn video game. She's Walker, Texas Ranger's love interest in this TV show. All right. Junho Chong, so it's 5/11, May 11, trading day for us to sell our MMTLP shares. Man, that's all rumor mill. I got nothing. I haven't. Like, it's like saying December 12th, 2012 is going to be the end of the world, because that's when the Mayan calendar has no more dates. It's also when the Mayan calendar ran out of room on the rock they were carving. So the world didn't end. My guess is that it might be some random date. I don't know. I guess we'll find out in May. Chris Taylor. Existential question. Freaked me out to learn we are in the midst of the 6th mass extinction. Think humanity will survive? What do you think will ultimately do us in? What will always happen before this? Yes, we're in the 6th mass extinction. I think a large portion of humanity will not survive. Is that to say all of it won't survive? We're omnivores. We can eat anything. We can also, build environments to protect ourselves from harsh elements and things like that. But not everyone has access to that technology. And folks that are in, places that might get too hot, that like the wet bulb heat happens, and they just basically die from heat exhaustion because there's no air conditioning, or storms wipe them out. Droughts take their crops. They don't survive. At the moment, we make enough food to feed the entire world. We still have the distribution to make that happen because we're greedy fuckers. But there may come a point where we can't grow that much food anymore. And we have 9 billion people on Earth. And due to climate change and, soil becoming arid and whatnot, and we might not have the food to distribute to the rest of the world if that comes the case. We aren't there yet. But if it comes down to it, and like the United States has a choice of feeding its own population or shipping food off to some famine-starved place, the United States is going to feed itself. Europe would do the same. China would do the same. Like, well, I'm going to feed my people first. Anything left over, I might send to like some poor part of the world that people are dying. That's because nations are insular and they protect their national interests first. But if we have large-scale collapse of, say, the oceans, because we're pumping out so much CO2, that CO2, remember, water vapor goes up in the atmosphere, and when it condenses, it will condense around a particle. And oftentimes that particle is a CO2 molecule. When it rains, it brings that CO2 back down to Earth, gets washed into the ocean, and CO2 levels start to rise in the oceans. Well, when you get a whole bunch of CO2 in the oceans, it creates this thing called carbonic acid. And carbonic acid eats away at calcium carbonates. So that means crab shells, clams, oysters, barnacles, zooplankton. That stuff gets dissolved into the ocean because the carbonic levels are rising. And if you kill off all those things, then the creatures that feed off of them, your baleen whales, your, flounders or whatever, those start to die from starvation as well. And if those things die, then the stuff that feeds off of all that starts to die. So you don't have, when a baleen whale dies, you get stuff that feeds off the carcass. Well, they start to disappear, right? So the scavengers die, and you get and if the oceans get too acidic, then it will eat away everything. Even the teeth of like certain fish will disappear as well. So you get a giant collapse of the entire oceanic ecosystem. And you get a giant mass extinction. Cat, do not knock all those on the floor. Okay. And then fishing stocks disappear. Fishermen are out of work. We don't have any more seafood to eat. Shorebirds all die. Shorebirds die, then, I don't know what where beyond that it goes. But then you can't feed lots of things as a result. We've already had scares of losing our beehives. If we lose our beehives, then we lose our pollinating capacity. If we lose our pollinating capacity, then 70% of all crops no longer exist and we don't have anything to eat. So we definitely have a bunch of huge problems on the way. We definitely put a lot of animals at risk and have made a whole bunch of others extinct. Made animals we didn't even know existed to go extinct because we've destroyed so many untouched virgin forests in the tropical world that the stuff hasn't been cataloged yet. So anyway, will that happen before MOAS? I mean, if humanity's dying, the market's definitely going to collapse. So if the market collapses, MOAS happens. So I think the ending of all human existence will at least lead for a moment lead to MOAS. Does that soothe any fears for you, Chris Taylor? Decatur Raw, happy birthday, Houston. Can you elaborate on the Judicial Retirement Fund being funded by a small percentage of the actual child support payments from paying fathers? Decatur Raw, that is outside of my knowledge base. I've never heard of that. Judicial Retirement Fund being funded by a small percentage of the actual child support payments from paying fathers. I have never heard of that before. I see one YouTube video. Woke judge promotes divorce to enslave men with child support payments. I don't think that is legit. I've got something saying retirement funds from deadbeat dads can be used to pay for child support. Judge retirement system. This is from West Virginia Consolidated Public Retirement Board. So this is state judge. Judge or justice must pay 9% of annual salary he or she earned during time paid to the retirement fund. So this is how they pay for it. I don't see anything about child support payments being used to pay for judicial retirements. I don't see anything in there about that. Oops. That's not there. Okay. Jersey, challenge Houston. Buy a calzone with chicken and barbecue sauce, 300 grams in the market. You can only use the microwave, only the oven or pan is allowed. Oh, you can't use the microwave. So I got to make a calzone from the market? What? Do you want me to eat a calzone? I'll eat a calzone. I don't know if I want a barbecue chicken calzone. Namely because the buffalo chicken pizza, which is kind of like a barbecue chicken pizza, is what gave me salmonella. And I'm just not interested in never getting salmonella again. And that is an honest to God fear of mine, is to eat buffalo chicken pizza. And that sounds like a buffalo chicken pizza that's been folded over. Squamps want to talk about cats. The cat would love talking to you, Squamps. Honey Horse, if MMTLP squeezes, will MMAT squeeze? I think so. I mean, they are slated to get a huge chunk of profit off of any sale of the oil and gas field. And a lot of people who have MMTLP or NextBridge, my guesses would purchase... Crap, I'm not supposed to talk about it. But purchase Acme parent company. Be my guess. Squamps, have you heard of Harvey the Cat who can only fall asleep to Nickelback? Houston, are you familiar with Dr. Stephen Greer? He has a film of things popping in and out of dimensions. No. Dr. Stephen, we're going with all the scientists today. Stephen Greer, American ufologist. Okay. American ufologist who founded the Center for Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence. If I do videos. I'm just getting interviews with him. Interviews. Stephen Greer was offered $2 billion to keep UFOs covered up. Okay, I would take the $2 billion, no problem. Be like, yeah, UFOs don't exist. Whatever, I don't give a shit. And would go enjoy my $2 billion. Okay. All right, I have to look this dude up more because I'm not seeing any videos of things popping in and out of existence yet. I'll look that up more. SJ, what if they're out of phase by exactly one wavelength? That too could happen for the LIGO detectors. I think they chose a wavelength specifically so that it wouldn't, that if there was perturbations, because things are coming from far away, so as the waves pass through, it makes for just the teeniest amount of stretching from one side to the other. I think that's what it's less than the wavelength of one of those objects. Daphne Nickelback responded on Twitter and sent the cat's clothes. Oh shit, the raffle for the poster. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's do that right now. I was supposed to do that on Friday. I totally forgot. Okay, raffle, poster raffle. Is this what I want? Yes, this is what I want. Okay. All right. Boom. Get rid of this. Google Earth. Go away. Okay. So I have the Excel file. So if I turn off Chrome, I turn off Calculator. Why is the Excel file so tiny? I guess because only those windows. Okay, so everybody's name in the Excel file. There's how many total? 870 because there were some anonymous ones. So anonymous doesn't really get the name thrown in here. So I've got all the names. I need to select the everything. Boink. Come on, select all. Right click. We're going to copy. We're going to go back to Chrome. And we're going to select some names. Ready? We put our names all in here. Bam. And are you folks ready? Are you ready for figuring out who's going to get the poster? And to remind you, we should, so we can make things, one sec. I'm going to go back to Big Houston real quick. Go here, go there. Messages, got to find Jorge did a little update in the poster, add some shadow to things. So this is what we're fighting for. Either get a poster or a t-shirt, your choice. And it's for everyone that donated to our most recent Charity Tuesday for February. $1 donation was one entry. And so I recorded everything that got donated, threw it into the Excel spreadsheet, and now we're going to figure out who gets it. You guys ready? Are you ready? Bing. Totally forgot to do this on Friday. I'm a fool. Leo B. Leo B's the winner. I don't know if he's in the show today. Leo B, you are the winner. You get your choice of shirt or poster. I'm going to write your name down so that Leo B winner. Put a little box around that. Boom. There we go. Okay. Leo B, you have won. If you're in the chat today, pop up. If not, contact me either via Twitter DM or Reddit. One of those ways are best probably get me. Or pop up in the chat and we'll figure out how to do that. So there you go, Leo B. You win. Yay! Hooray! All right. There we go. Can't believe I forgot to do that on Friday. And then Jorge messaged me this weekend. He was like, hey, who won? And I was like, crap, I forgot to do that on Friday. So thank you for reminding me. Who was it that reminded me? It was SJ? SJ. SJ, thank you for reminding me. Leo B, winner. T-shirt dinner. Daphne, I should do a family portrait of Houston as pets, then you can make shirts from it. Oh my goodness, that would be wonderful. I would take that, Daphne. I would take whatever wonderful painting you would do of the monkey butts and I. Right? Hi, monkey butt on the floor. Staring at my back. She knows that there's probably a TREAT coming. Every time Houston pauses, it thinks his internet dropped. Sometimes I gotta like go back in the recesses of my mind. But I also have to give Marius a good spot to like, edit. So like I can go, and then Marius knows to cut and start a new short video. Honey Horse, if you look up Richard Greer, he's also trying to fight for a cleaner biosphere. You just have to see this stuff. It talks about hidden technology that we would create clean energy. Cold fusion, baby, create clean energy. That's what we got to work for. Videos, Dr. Greer explains UF videos, part 1. Oh, so Honey Horse, for some reason, YouTube doesn't let viewers post links, but I'll look them up. I'll watch some videos. People talking about watching Star Wars in '77 with their friends. A couple years before my time, I did get to see Return of the Jedi in theaters. That came out when I was a kid. I saw that. I have a memory of going to theater and seeing that. Empire Strikes Back came out the year before I was born, so I didn't get to see that in theaters. Daphne Houston, can you describe the concept of infinity and infinite universe? I mean, infinity has no end. That's basically, it defies our brains being able to truly conceptualize it. We sort of just accept it. Like, there are large numbers that are so big they actually cannot exist in our known universe. I talked about this before. I talked about with my astronomy students, like a Googleplex. 1 followed by 100 zeros. We can write that number out. We can write 1 and 100 zeros out, and we say, oh, we wrote that down, a Googleplex. But that number is actually so large it cannot exist in our universe. And that starts to mess with our brains. We can get to about 1 followed by 76 zeros, counting all the particles in the universe. And that's counting all the electrons, the protons, the neutrons, add them all together, and it's like 4 times 10 to the 76th. Okay, we break that down into quarks. Each one of those suckers has 3 quarks to make them up. Multiply that sucker by 3, and we've got 1.2 times 10 to the 77th particles in the entire known universe. So when we talk about infinity, we talk about something that really can't be realized simply because it just has no bounds, right? Even if we're trying to make bounds for it, it's a number that goes beyond the stuff we can count. So an infinite universe essentially is implying that since the universe is expanding, and expanding into what? We don't know. A void. Okay. What does that mean? It means it's a void. Are there walls to this void? Can't tell you because we haven't hit them yet. All we know is that that for 13.8 billion years it's been expanding, hasn't bounced off any walls yet. So there are certain goofy ways of infinity. Let's show you some goofy infinities. Okay, go back to paint. We're going to just go new. Don't save. Okay. No, I want Chrome. I want the paint. Paint. There we go. Excel, you can go away. I don't need the name list anymore. Okay. So a couple of infinities, like, if you have 1 over infinity, this is something infinitely small, right? Like this could be infinite number of zeros after decimal point. You really can't name one or the other. There are certain infinities that we just treat like infinity because the numbers are so astronomically large, we can't wrap our heads around it. So when you get like fractions where it might be like, I don't know, 10 to the, oops, I want to do that. Oops, one more, delete that one. Like 10 to the, I don't know, 50th over 1. We just kind of treat that like infinity anyway. We can find things like this in like neutrino detectors. Neutrinos by the trillions are like passing through your body at any moment, passing through the earth, passing through the cat, passing through my glasses, passing through the dog sitting behind me, through my chair, through the house. Neutrinos are just flowing from the universe all the time. Very, 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 very rarely, because atoms are like 99.99999999999% nothing. Neutrinos accidentally hit something inside of an atom, cause a reaction. But it happens so infrequently that we might as well consider it to not happen at all. So when we got the neutrino detectors, we set up a neutrino detector. It's made with heavy water. So the hydrogen atoms are radioactive isotopes. They're attached to the oxygen to make the water. And, an infinite number of neutrinos passing through this detector, right? And it hits one of the atoms. Actually, it hits one of the atoms in the heavy water molecule. It gives off a photon as a result, and it hits these things called photon multipliers. And they go, oh my God, and then repeats that photon a million times. So it rings a bell, basically. Ding, 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 ding. We got a neutrino. And they put these things like deep inside the earth, inside caves and lava tubes and stuff. And this is, we know that there's like an infinite number, just quadrillions and quintillions and sextillions numbers of neutrinos passing through this tank of water, and one just happens to hit the thing, cause a photomultiplier to go off, and they go, woohoo, we got one. So the what's the name of the one in Hawaii? Ashra? Ashra, I think is the name of it. So the Big Island, the University of Hawaii, has a neutrino detector, very big and very famous. And in 6 months, they got like 3 hits, right? So essentially, it was like 10 to the 50th over 3. Might as well be like non-existent. Oh, she's staring at me. She knows we're towards the end of the show, and it is staring at me time. And where was I going? Talking about infinity. Monkey, you distracted me. But anyway, infinity is essentially, think of things that are so infinitesimally small or so infinitesimally large that you really can't wrap your head around what it means, and you just sort of accept it and shrug your shoulders. That's infinity. See, the clock. The dog knows I'm 2 hours into the show. That's at the end of the show, and now she's staring at me intently, knowing for a fact that I have to reach up here and get one of these, right? Is that what you want? Yeah? We did a fun one on the show last night, on the Twitch stream last night. It involved Monkey Butt and the Monkey Butt cam. Let's see if we can get her to do it again today. Okay. Here we go. Monkey Butt cam. Come on, get it. Yeah, get it. Oh, yeah. Oh, you want that one? Want that one there? Around the camera. Want that one? You want another one? There it is. Get it. We got one too. One more there. Hate Infinity goes on and on and on and on and on. He just doesn't know how to stop. Okay. Daphne, send a photo of the 3 of you. I'll get a photo of the 3 of us. Okay, I will do that. I'll send you a photo. Okay. As for me, the dog, and the cat, we got to go visit my mom now. So that's going to be it for our show today. I'll see you on Wednesday. We may have Ron on Wednesday. Got to confirm with him. And I'm going to try and get Rosa on this week as well, so that might be Friday. But I need to message her first. Okay. If I get to your chats, I'm so sorry. We'll try to get to them on Wednesday or Friday or whatever. If I do a Twitch stream, come on by. Until then, you guys have a great day. I'm going to try to have a great day. Let's do that. Okay. No tricks being the show monkey. No tricks. Not